Hello and welcome. For today's class, you will need a washcloth or a hand towel. A block is optional and so is a blanket to pad the knees. So we're going to start in Baddha Konasana. Soles of the feet together, knees are open, and you'll begin with your hands behind you. So this particular variation is not at all about how close the torso gets to the legs, more about how we experience active movement, active work in our hips and our legs. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to press your feet strongly together and then relax that. And just repeat that a couple of times. Try pressing your feet together. Notice what you feel in your legs and your pelvis. Do that one more time. Now as you press your feet together, try to actively draw the heels back toward your pelvic floor. And you'll notice some other things start to speak to you. Relax. Do that again. Press your feet. Pull the heels back and in. Okay. And relax. Now, pressing the feet, start to reach the knees out away from each other. So you're still attempting to maintain contact through the ball of the foot, the heel, as you reach your knees away from each other and push them down toward the floor. Notice what you feel between your right and left legs. Okay, and then relax that. And do that one more time. Push your feet together. Reach the knees out away from each other and down toward the floor. And then relax that. Last time. Push the feet, reach the knees away from each other, push the knees down. Now try to pull the heels back toward the pelvic floor as you continue to reach the knees out and down, and then relax. Okay, you can take your hands to your knees or your shins or your ankles. We're going to allow ourselves to roll and round the spine, so we're rolling toward the back of our pelvis, and then forward and up onto the sitting bones. And we round back into the pelvis, to the sacrum, and we roll up and over the sitting bones to a tall spine. We can use our hands to help us with this. A couple more times. So as you're rounding, feel the spaces where your spine is opening in the back. And as you're lifting, feel that the front of the spine is opening. So the facets are opening in the front and the facets are opening in the back as you go into your flexion and extension. You may notice as you rock that you get a little rhythm in your sitting bones. I notice that I roll over one of my sitting bones before the other. Just pay attention to those kinds of asymmetries. We all have them, but they do inform how we move, how we practice. So just pay attention. Okay, relaxing that, you're going to come to your knees and tuck your toes under. I'm going to do this first facing away from you so you can see. You have your toes tucked under. Draw the smallest of your toes up and underneath your feet. And then go ahead and sit back on your heels. Notice if you've got your heels underneath your sitting bones, if they're outside of your sitting bones, if they're inside, if one is in a different place than the other. Pay attention to those things. Try to make your heels as even as possible underneath your sitting bones. And it might feel like you're actually drawing the outer ankles and the heels in toward each other. Let your palms either rest together, rest on your legs, or maybe take your hands somewhere on your body to feel the inner space. This can be a strong foot stretch, so if you need to, you can take momentary pauses to come out. Close your eyes, bring your attention inward to the space of your body. We begin each practice with a sense that we go in to explore, to be curious, to understand, to be open to possibility, to allow. Take another inhalation and a soft exhalation, and then you can release yourself from that space. And we're going to come back into our Baddha Konasana one more time. And now I'm pressing down. We're going to come back to the active work. So I'm pushing my feet together, reaching my knees out and down. And then as I do that, I'll be your mirror. So you'll take your right knee, press your right knee into the floor, and begin to lift your left leg any amount. Pause there. You may be able to hover that leg. Okay, if you're hovering the leg or if the heel is down, either way, we're going to start to internally rotate that leg, and it may mean that you walk your hands to the right, so you get more of your weight into the right leg, push through the right knee, and then take your left heel back toward your buttock and place it down. Okay, now push your right foot and your left knee together. Tall in the spine. You can always use your hands behind you to support you. Push, push, push. And then we're going to come up to kneel. You can use your hands if you need them, but try not to use them as you push through the knees and the shins to come up. As you come up, gather your outer hips in and send your buttocks and your pelvis forward. And then slowly descending, you can use your arms out in front of you to counterweight the descent. And again, coming up, we lean forward to come up, and coming back and down. Depending on where your arms go, it will change how difficult this is. So if you keep your arms overhead, it's going to be different than if they're forward of you. So you can play with that. One more time. Okay. And then use your hands if you need them, or maybe you can keep your hands off the floor. Support yourself as you need to. Push your right knee into the floor. Externally rotate your left leg. Take your feet together. Press your knees out and down. Press your feet together. And then press your left knee into the floor. Lift your right leg. Extend it forward any amount, and then internally rotate. And you might need to walk yourself to the left. Pull your right heel back toward your buttock and place the foot down. Now press the left foot and the right knee together. Push strongly. Again, your hands can be behind you. Push, push, push. And then release that. We're going to come up again. So you might start with your hands in front of you. It's going to help you get up with a little bit less load in the hips. Hug your outer hips in. You can also play with pushing the left foot and the right knee together. You can try to keep that work as you descend. Your arms can be forward or somewhere else. Try going to the side with the arms. Or maybe overhead. So you use your legs to push into the floor. You sit back and down. One more time. Slowly up. Slowly back and down. Okay. And then move your weight into your left leg. Float your right leg up, rotate, and bring your feet together. Hands to your knees, shins, or ankles, and give yourself a little rock, like a cow and cat spine, back and forth. Okay. All right, good. So we're come to the knees. Facing forward. I'm going to fold my blanket up a little more, but however you want to set yours up, that works for you. Okay. We're going to start with a little flow, and then we'll break some of it down slightly. So I'm going to press my knees to the floor, hug my outer hips in, and then reach my arms to the ceiling. I feel all of my toenails pressing down. Okay, so move weight into right knee, and see if you can float your left knee up off the floor. And then step your left foot forward. From here, take your fingertips to the floor around your left foot. Spin your back shin, and you'll take your left forearm to your left thigh and stretch your right arm overhead. And then as you inhale, you'll come up, turn your left toes in the same direction that you are facing with your chest. Reach back any amount as you plant your left foot down. Maybe you bring your right hand to the floor, maybe you float it. That's going to be a personal choice. Inhale, and then as you exhale, you have to lift back up. If you bring your hand to the floor, return your left toes forward, bend your left knee, stretch your right arm overhead. Repeating that. Inhale to come up. Exhale to reach back. Inhale up. Exhale, bend. And reach. One more time. Inhale up, turn the foot. Exhale back, tap the hand perhaps. Inhale, floating back up, return the foot. Bend the knee, let your hips go toward that left heel. Take your fingertips to the floor, return your back shin, press your palms. Down dog split. As you exhale, bring your knee to your chest and then find plank pose. Take an inhale. As you exhale, 5 counts to lower. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Point the toes back, press the toenails down into the floor. Pull the floor backwards, lift your shoulder heads, let your head stay heavy. Pull the floor back, send your chest forward further and up, and then allow the throat to open. Take an inhale. As you exhale, lower back to the floor. Press your hands next to your ribs. Tuck your toes. This first one I will teach to come to plank on the knees. You can also come to plank with the knees lifted. Lifting your navel, drop your tailbone. Widen the back, bottom ribs. Press your hands, lift your shoulders, and come right up to modified plank, and then back into child's pose. Take a deep inhalation, deep exhale. Okay, inhale, coming back up onto the knees. Arms reach overhead, hug your outer hips in. You can switch the thumb that's in front with your thumbs crossed, just to always revisit this idea that we try to do things in a balanced way. Move your weight into your left knee. See if you can float your right shin off the floor. Hug your outer hips in. Step your right foot forward. Fingertips around the right foot. Spin your back shin 90 degrees. Coming up, take your right elbow to your right thigh and stretch your left arm overhead. Let your hips come toward your right heel. As you inhale, come up. Turn your toes the same direction that your chest is facing. Reach back. Either touch your hand to the floor or float. Or if you take your left hand to the floor, just know you have to come back up with a sense of control. Coming up, bend your right knee, toes turning toward the front of the mat, hips toward the right heel. Inhale up. Exhale back. Inhale up. Exhale, bend right knee, hips toward right heel. One more time. Inhale up. Right toes turn forward, left hand touches earth. Inhale up. Exhale, bend right knee, hips toward right heel. Take your hands around your right foot. Spin your back shin. Plant your palms, down dog, split right leg back and up. Right knee to chest. Keep your shoulders over your wrists. Just move your right leg back into plank. Inhale and exhale, lower. Slowly to the floor. Hands wide, pull the floor back. Lift from your shoulders first, then your chest, then your navel, and then finally your head. Cobra or low cobra. Exhale back to the floor. Your choice, knees can stay down or knees lift, navel lifts, lift shoulders right up to plank, and then back in to down dog. We're going to move that on the breath once more. Inhale, lift. Weight into your right shin, float the left leg, exhale, step forward. Take your back shin 90 degrees, left forearm to the left thigh. Stretch, bring your hips toward your left heel. Lift up and back, tap the back hand or just float over the floor. Inhale, up. Exhale, bend like a mini Parsvakonasana. Inhale, up. Exhale toward the back of the mat. One more time, inhale, up. Exhale, bend and stretch open. Up to center and reaching back. Up, turn your left toes forward. Take your hands to the floor. Return your back shin down, dog split. Inhale. Exhale, one-legged plank. Plank pose. Chaturanga or to the floor. Cobra or up dog. Downward facing dog. Deep breath in. Deep exhale. Softly tap the knees. Second side. Lifting up. Hook the thumbs. Switch the thumb that's in front. Weight into the left shin. Float the right leg. Step it forward. Back shin turns 90 degrees. Inhale. Hips toward the right heel. Exhale, reaching back. Inhale, up. And exhale, bend. Inhale, center. Exhale, reaching back. Inhale to center. Exhale, bend forward. One more time, inhale. Exhale, reaching back. Inhale, up. Exhale, forward. Take your hands to the floor. Down dog split. Right knee to chest. Plank pose. Chaturanga or to the floor. Cobra or upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Deep breath in. Deep exhale. Take your knees to the floor. Okay, so playing a little bit within this context, we're going to explore into these poses a little bit that we've moved mostly in a flow setting. So, we feel the outer hips hugging in. This is our glute medius, tensor fascia lata. These are like primary stabilizers of our pelvis. And we want these to be holding us up or stabilizing us as we move through these postures. So I'm going to keep cueing you back to this feeling of hugging outer hips in, pinning them in, or having a feeling of a vice on the outer hip. Reach your arms up, hook your thumbs. Okay, weight into your right shin, float your left leg. Instead of stepping so far forward and in the midline, step your left foot a little bit forward, but more to the side, maybe even off your mat. And then take your right hand to your right hip. It's going to help you feel that pinning in. Pin the outer right hip in as you shift your hips to the left. It might not be a huge amount because you start to feel it in the inner right leg. And then reach your left arm over to the right. And coming up again, just twice more. Pin the right hip in, shift your hips over directly to the left, and stretch through your left side to the right. One more time. Hips pin in. You feel those glutes turning on as you push your pelvis to the left, and then lift up and over to the right. Okay, take your left foot the rest of the way. to this Anjaneyasana stance. So more in the midline, a bit further forward. And then if you need to, take your hands to the floor or simply spin your back shin around. So we've got this Parshva Konasana stance with the knee down. And now you can come here to take the elbow to the thigh, or you could slide further down to the ankle, to hand to ankle, and then stretch your right arm overhead. And here you want to feel that the left sitting bone is pinning in and underneath you. You can even do what I just did and reach under, grab your own buttock, your own sitting bone, and pull it under, and then stretch your right arm overhead. Take another inhalation. As you exhale, you're going to come up. Turn your left toes toward the same direction as your heart. And let your hips slide to the left. So again, it's that feeling. Outer right hip pinning in. You feel those muscles turning on as you push your own pelvis toward the left. You can see my hips shifting. I'm going to lift up and out of that and take my right hand to the floor. And then keep pinning my hips in the direction of my left foot and stretch my left arm overhead. And from here, I can play with bending my right elbow, letting my left hand drip toward the floor, and then straightening and opening and pushing through the outer edge, the small toe edge of the left foot. One more time, I'm going to bend my right elbow in the amount as I reach my left hand down, and then keep pinning my hips toward my left foot and stand firmly in that left foot. Staying strong in the left foot, I come up, inhale, and then exhale, repivot my left foot back to the front. Stretch my right arm overhead. And then I'm going to come back and shift back to sit on my heels, okay? The last piece here for this side is I'm going to walk my right hand to the right toward the back of the mat, and I'm going to have my left knee still on the blanket, shifting my right foot out from underneath. So it's sort of similar to this work we did a little bit ago. So I've got my right knee bent open, my left foot is back behind me. My right hand is about in line with my right knee, and I'm going to pick up. So instead of just using my legs to get me up, I'm going to have my hand on the floor to push me. And my left shin is on that blanket. I'm going to keep that and slide my right leg a little bit further forward. Now I'm really pinning my pelvis forward, and I'm lifting my hips up away from the floor by pushing into my left knee, and maybe I can start to lift my right knee, and maybe my right foot, and maybe I can extend my right leg. Okay, another deep inhalation, and then as you exhale, see if you can draw that right shin back and underneath you and set it down. Okay, bring your legs back together, and you can simply turn yourself forward. If you wanted to do chaturanga, you could do cow and cat. Meeting in down dog for a breath or two. And then softly placing the knees to the floor, and we'll do the other side, okay? So, thumbs hook, opposite thumb in front. Weight into your left shin. Hug your outer left hip in like you have a pin or a vise hugging that part of your hip into the midline, and then see if you can step your foot slightly forward and off the mat to the right. From there, you can use your left hand on your left hip to continue to help to pin that in. You're sending your hips directly to the right with the buttock turn on and stretching the right arm overhead. And then coming up to center. Repeating that, so feel that your glutes are turned on here, and send your hips directly to the right. You'll feel this in the inner left leg, likely, and come up. One more time, hips to the right. Glutes are turned on, stretch up and over, and coming up to center. Pick up the right foot, continue to hug the left outer hip in and step to the midline. Pivot your back shin 90 degrees. Here you can stay with the elbow on the thigh or slip the hand down to the ankle. And rotate yourself and your ribs from the bottom to the top in the front, and in the back from the top to the bottom. And then you can stretch your arm overhead if you have not already. And coming up, take your right toes in the same direction as your chest and sternum. Lift up and over, and as you lift up and over, send your pelvis toward your right foot. So the left outer hip is hugging in, and then reach your right arm overhead. And here, you can keep pressing the pelvis toward the right foot, and just let the left elbow bend, let the right arm get heavy over the head. Coming up, inhale, and as you exhale, again, bend your left elbow, let the right arm drip toward the floor. Coming back up as you inhale. Turn your right toes forward and then bring your knees together and sit down. And we're going toward the back of the mat. So I'm going to sit my hips to the left. I'm going to slip my left leg out from underneath my right. And again, I want my right shin on the blanket if I'm using the blanket. And I want that padded. Now, the left hand is going to line up with the knees, essentially. And pressing into the right shin, right knee, I'm drawing my tailbone down and forward. And I'm going to slip my left leg out a little bit. See if I can lift my left knee. Maybe I lift my left foot. Maybe I extend my left leg out. Take another inhalation, and then as I exhale, see if I can place that left leg back underneath me, sit down, and then bring my knees back together, turning to face the front of the mat, cow and cat. Okay, feel free to take chaturanga, up dog, or cobra. We're going to meet in downward facing dog. As you take your down dog, you can clear your mat, so if you've got a blanket, you can move that aside. Inhale, exhale, even out your breath. And then when you're ready, you can start to walk your feet or hop your feet forward to your hands. Allow your head to be heavy, your neck to relax completely. Feel free to bend your knees here. Take any arm variation or hand variation that feels supportive or potent or meaningful here. Okay, bend your knees, drop your tail. Take your hands to your thighs. Let your tail really drop toward the floor, so you let your low back round. Let your hips shift back one, and then the other. So you feel into that space of flexion around the lumbar spine. We've been told for various reasons that moving the lumbar spine and flexion is a no-no. And in some cases this can be true, especially if you're recovering from an injury or you've got some acute injury. But in general, we want our spine to be able to do all kinds of movement and to be able to hold the load of all kinds of movement. So training our body to be flexed in the spine on occasion is a good thing as long as we don't have pain. So if you're still here and you can let your arms go, that's great. If you still need the support of the hands, use them. And then slowly roll yourself up to stand. Find Tadasana. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel down into your feet. Notice the pressure, how your feet meet the earth. Okay. At this stage, if you enjoy and like to take Surya Namaskar, you can pause the video and take some cycles of Surya Namaskar. I'm not going to teach them here, but you can pause and take that for yourself, and then when you turn the video back on, you can rejoin us. For those of us that would like to go right into the next step, you will grab your washcloth or your hand towel. And I'm going to roll this up. Okay, so I make a tight roll so that it's really no thicker than a finger, and even that might be too thick. So you have to play with it a little bit. If you can see, this is my finger, and this is maybe too thick for me. So I'm gonna unroll it a little bit, but you can play with it as you work with this material. Okay, once you have that, you're going to set it up under your left big toe mound. Okay, if you are standing on a clock and straight ahead is 12 o'clock, to your right is 3 o'clock, behind you is 6 o'clock, to your left is 9 o'clock. This little lift to the big toe knuckle, or the biggest knuckle, biggest bone joint of the big toe, it is coming straight out at 3 o'clock. And it's really only under that big toe for right now, okay? Try first to straighten through your leg and find balance here. And if it doesn't feel like it's giving you any feedback, try going a little thicker. If it feels like it's really pushing you off center, lower it a little bit. Okay, so we're here balancing. Left leg is straightening, left outer hip pinning in, and you might find, okay, I've got this thing under my big toe, it feels a little wobbly. Stay with it if you can. I didn't say this, but if you've got your block, you can place it to the outer left side of your mat. So straight left leg, outer left hip in. Take your right ankle, place it to the inner left thigh, tree pose. Okay, press your heel into your thigh back into your heel. Feel the outer hips compacting in. Keep that compacting quality in the hips. Start to bend your left knee. Okay, then let your right knee begin to open back. Now press your knees away from each other like we did in Baddha Konasana, and begin to let the foot lift off. Keep your left knee bent. See if you can float here for a moment. And if you need it, the block is there. You can place your hands up, but keep the left knee bent. Stretch back through the right leg, right arm reaching out, and then maybe straighten through the left leg. Really straighten and lift that left thigh up into the pelvis. Rebend the left knee. Now float your left hand if you can, and gently step back with your right foot to set up for like a warrior two stance. So kind of wide, okay? Press through your feet. Now again here, straighten your left leg as much as you can. Pull your feet toward each other. Inhale, reach down your back leg. You can take your right hand to that outer right hip to pin it in. And then keep sliding back and down without putting too much weight in your right hand, you can keep using the hand at the outer hip if that's helpful, and then coming up, bend your left knee. Take your left elbow to your thigh, or you can slip your hand to your left ankle. Okay, repeating. Hug your legs toward each other. Lift up on your left kneecap. Hug your outer right hip and reach back. And then coming up, bend into your left knee. Take your left elbow to your left thigh and rotate your ribs toward the ceiling. One more time. Up. Straighten front leg. Hug the legs strongly together. Pin the right hip and reach back. Coming up. Bend your left knee and reach out and long. Okay. Take your right hand to the floor. You can slip the towel aside. Place the right palm, externally rotate that right arm. Keep the right hand well planted. Turn both of your feet to the left. Keep rotating in the right arm, left arm to the ceiling. Stay here or float the left leg over the right leg. Pin the outer right hip in once more, but this time lifting to the ceiling. Keep rotating the right arm and then reach your left arm overhead. Find plank pose, cow and cat, chaturanga, lowering to the floor, whatever your choice is here to move your spine through flexion and extension. Okay, second side, you can step or hop your feet forward. Have your little towel roll. Re-roll it if you need to. Place the lifted piece underneath the big toe mound of the right foot pointing to 9 o'clock. Okay, you can move your block over to the right and come up to stand. Okay, here we go, second side. First, stand up straight on that right leg, and again, feel. Is the towel pushing you too far off center? If so, lower it. If it's not giving you enough feedback, make it a little higher. You might need to do something different on this side. Outer hip's gonna pin in as you straighten through your right leg. Float your left leg up. Notice any differences between your right and left feet and how they respond to the feedback of the towel. Take your left ankle and place it into the right inner thigh. Okay, lifting, standing up tall on that right leg. Okay? Now, let your right knee bend a little bit. Start to let the left knee go back behind you as your right knee also presses forward and to the right. Like we did in Baddha Konasana, pressing the knees away from each other until very slowly the left foot slips off of the right leg. And we find our Ardha Chandrasana. Your right knee stays bent initially. Feel free to use your block here and then see if you can really straighten, truly straighten your right leg. Lifting your right kneecap up, keeping space in the front of that right hip as you extend through all limbs in every direction. And then re-bend your right knee. And very slowly, floating your right hand off the block, stepping back into your long stance, preparing for Warrior 2 or Parsva Konasana. So first thing, straightening that right leg, pulling the kneecap up into the pelvis, and then use your left hand to gently nudge the left outer hip in as you lift up and open through the right side. Coming up to center, re-bend the right knee. Take the right elbow to the thigh or the right hand to the ankle. Okay, either one. Stretch open as you hug your bottom sitting bone in underneath you. Okay, coming up to center. Straighten both legs. Hug and lift your kneecaps up and in. Hug your legs toward each other. Pin the outer left hip in and reach back. And then coming up to center, bend your right knee, right elbow to the thigh. Stretch up and over. One more time. Inhale, up. Straighten both legs. Hug the outer left hip in. Lift up and back. And bend right knee. Stretch up and over, Parsva Konasana. Take your left hand to the floor, set the towel aside. Plug your left hand in, externally rotate your left arm as you pivot your feet to the right. Right arm up, stay here, or float your right leg up. Pin your left hip up to the ceiling. Inhale, reach your right arm overhead. Exhale, plank pose. Inhale, exhale. Lower to the floor or halfway, or take your cow and cat here. We're going to meet in child's pose. Okay, from child's pose, you could have your block handy if you want it. We're moving to pigeon. I'm going to teach it actively. I tend to practice most hip opening with activation around my hip joint, and this has proven to be incredibly beneficial to my sacroiliac joint, to the health of my pelvis, pelvic floor, my hips, my low back. That's my experience, and you might find something different. I think it's good to have options, so try it actively if you haven't before. If you find that it's not really working for your body, then you can play with the amount of passive versus active really in each pose. It's completely up to you. So I'm going to start from plank pose. I'm going to draw my left knee to my left upper arm, pivot my left shin forward, and then place the left shin to the floor. I'll take my block just to have some support initially. I push my hands into the block, push my knees into the floor, and draw them toward each other. So the more weight I put in the block, the less work it has to be done in my hips. So I keep drawing my hips, my knees toward each other. And if I feel like I can support myself, I continue to draw up and in, outer hips in. And then here I can stay, or I can lift my arms up, or take my hands to my hips, and use my hands to gently lift my left hip point up and guide my right hip forward. And inhale and exhale, come down. And then from here, I'm going to pivot over to my left hip and extend my right leg out. I'm going to use a block for this for similar reasons. For me, because I have a lot of mobility, I like to back out of where my end range is and work more on strengthening in my range of motion. So I'm going to take my right elbow to right inner knee, push down into the block and into the knee, and then I'm rotating my ribs around as I push my right heel into the floor, drag it back toward my right sitting bone, and plug both of my sitting bones in. Inhale and exhale, rotate open. I'm going to let you play here. You can stay really static or be more dynamic, like I'm demonstrating opening and closing in the position. Inhaling and exhaling, come on out. Can lift the right knee, bring the right foot on top, right ankle on top of the left foot. And then I'm just going to rotate toward my left. So I can lean into my left hand. You could sit on something if you want. I'm not making the emphasis so much here on pelvis being even, but you can drop your right sitting bone down as you rotate around to the left. Scooping your left buttock underneath you and dropping the right sitting bone. Okay, coming back to center, press the hands, step back. Right knee to right upper arm. Pivot right shin forward. Step your right shin down to the floor. Press the knees into the floor. Use a block if you'd like to push down and lift up, drawing the knees toward each other. You can lift your arms overhead or use your hands to help lift up and guide the pelvis in toward a space of neutral as possible in this very asymmetrical pose. Drawing in and up. And then slowly releasing down. Moving weight into the right hip. Drawing the right heel in. And then I'm placing the block underneath my left knee. I'm going to face away from you here. You'll just be able to see a different part of the pose. So I'm going to press my left knee into my left arm, left elbow down into the block. And then I'm pushing my left heel down into the floor and dragging it back toward my left sitting bone. Inhale, rotating myself open. And again, I'm going to go more dynamic here. Opening and closing. You could stay really static or just find a space where you can breathe well and be there for a couple of breaths. As I take my next inhale, I'm going to open, come up, and then I'll take the block aside and bring my left ankle on top of my right foot, left knee right next to right. I'm leaning over to the right and I'm going to rotate. So I'm turning my chest to the right. And I may try to feel that my left sitting bone is getting heavier here. Okay, and then I'm going to take a blanket for this last pose. This is Bharadvajasana. So I'm going to show this from the side. I will have my hips in front of the blanket. So I'm going to take my hands and knees. My knees will be slightly to the right of the blanket. I'm going to sit back so that just my left sitting bone is on that blanket. I'm going to take my right ankle into my left arch. Okay? And then from here, so this is similar to the twist we just did in that last seated sequence. I'm going to use the blanket and take my hand to the blanket out the back. I'm going to pull back with my left hand on the blanket, right hand to the outer left knee, and rotate. That's one variation. If I want to get more external rotation in the leg, I can come up, take my left ankle to my right knee, and work here with a knee on a block, or I could take lotus, okay, which would be something like this, and you could take the bind. And in all cases, working to drop the right sitting bone toward the floor. And in all cases, whether you've got a block or you're in lotus or you're in the very first variation, all of them are really, really good variations. In all cases, trying to find a sense of leveling out through the pelvis, width in the rib cage. And then I'll come out, come forward with my hands, and I'm just taking my feet to the other side, lift and shift my knees over a little bit, and then I'll sit back with my right sitting bone. Just the right sitting bone on the blanket. And again, you can take any of those variations. I'm going to stick with the very first one. Inhale, lifting up, exhale, twisting to your right. You can use your right hand to hold the blanket. It's really nice prop there. Drop your left sitting bone down and fill through your rib cage and rotate around and around. 3-dimensional breath. Inhale and exhale. And then slowly release that. Go ahead and come onto your back. And have the blanket there for under your knees if you'd like. And as you roll onto your back, just gently draw the thighs into you. You can circle the knees around one way and then the other way. A little bicycle action. And then let yourself relax onto your back. And I'm going to direct through a variation of Viloma breath, which is a breath that's divided into parts. For our purposes today, we're going to take one full inhale and a 3-part exhale. We will repeat that several times. First, make your breath even. And then when you're ready, you take your next inhale at your rhythm, at your pace. Pause at the top, and then exhale a 1/3 of the breath out. Pause, 1/3 of the breath out. Pause, 1/3 of the breath out till you're empty. Pause, and then long, deep inhale. Pause at the top. And then exhale a 1/3 of the breath out. Pause. A 1/3 of the breath out. Pause. A 1/3 of the breath out. Empty pause. Long inhalation. Take 2 more cycles on your own. 3-part exhale with pauses between. Long inhalation with a pause at the top. Okay, so feel free to take a longer Shavasana. I'm going to take us out, so a nice thing to do could be just to pause the video and then play it again when you're ready to come out. So as you're ready to roll to your side, come up to sit, let your head and neck be heavy and relaxed. And then take any comfortable seat that you'd like. Place your hands wherever it resonates for you in your body. Your thighs, your belly, your heart, together in a different mudra that you know and love. And as we close, we once again come to looking into feeling, honoring the inner space of ourself, our inner awareness. The simple act of showing up to pay attention, what a powerful statement that is for the rest of our life. So as we honor that for ourselves, we carry that forward to our relationships, to others, to the world around us, and back again to ourselves. It's a constant cycle. Thank you for practicing with me today. If you have any questions over the sequence, anything that I shared or taught, please feel free to write me, reach out to my email address on my website, and have a wonderful rest of your day.